got. Fikiri wewe refu yako inanistua. Tutoke hapa nje, utaniona. Just and says, oh devil, what have you done? Oh my goodness. Hey, by the way, how you doing? My name is Frederick Njiri, and we just decided to do this with Alan. And just in case you're wondering who Alan is the camera guy who's behind this camera. Salimia watu Alan. So now he's just talking about some of the things that, you know, I've experienced in life. Kutoka utoi, you know, up to the time where I'm at right now. Obviously, I've been around for a while. Nimekula chumvi, nimeguza chumvi. And there's some stories that things that we did or people did around us that are the kind of things that you think, I probably should write a book, because we had real characters. They literally, most of them are still alive actually today. And we still interact. They don't know I'm going to do this, but these are some of the stories that back then when it happened, it didn't look as crazy as it was. But basically, it was just madness. Let me give you an example. There's this guy, for the sake of this, so that I know when he sees it, he will know, but I don't want as many people who know him to know that he's the dude who did this. His name is Anto, but there is a name. Those guys who are there will know that he's the one. And this one, the other guy, is a guy we used to call Dollar. Now, Dollar was called Dollar, not because he had a lot of ching-ching, but because for you who were born just the other day, you will never understand this. There was a program called the $6 Million Man, for those who are as old as I am. It was this bionic guy, his name was Steve Austin. It was one of those programs that if you missed, you didn't have a story in school, primary school. So back then, very few people had TVs. And so, you know, quite a number of people used to miss those. And you'd hear stories about the $6 Million Man. So Dollar really had a kick when it comes to football. And so, you know, people nicknamed him Dollar. So we are in this prayer meeting. We've grown up and stuff. Incidentally, Anthony and Dollar and myself went to the same school. I believe this is the best school in the world. It's Jamu, back way then. When Jamu was still Jamu, you know, when all the crazy madmen in the city used to go to Jamhuri High School, including one Jackie Male. I think he's a DJ. He was I think he was in Form 4 when us guys were monos. So that's the kind of school it was. Just to tell you crazy nuts about that school, there was a guy, we used to call him Chief. And Chief was a guy who had come from Geshagi, the rural areas. He still had the shrub, ya Geshagi, but I think that guy invented Bangi, because he was not normal, but he was brilliant, very bright. In fact, I think there was a time we had gone to one of these big schools to do hockey competition. And as we were leaving, the school beat us in hockey. And as we were leaving, unfortunately, then we took a KBS back to Jamhuri High School. And Chief saw one of the boys from this school that I'm not going to name inside the bus which guys from Jammu had entered into. And what happened, this guy, I told you he was nuts. So he goes, bullies this guy. I think he was a mono or something. And then KBS back then used to have an emergency door at the back. It threw the guy out of the bus through the emergency door. And we all, you know, there was a code of silence. You never tell. So Anthony and Dollar, we were in the same school in Jamhuri High School. And so we used to live in the same hood, and then we've met, we become Christians. We decided, okay, we had gone to, we used to have a prayer meeting in a house in Kariobangi South. And so on these days, people have prayed, you've done prayer meetings, and then the prayer meeting comes to an end. And Dola is the one who was leading the prayer meeting, and he says, okay, may the grace, and immediately he says that, I almost gave out the name, Anthony says, you guys, this by the grace thing is become traditional, religious. And an argument just broke out in the prayer meeting. We have not even finished praying. And there's an argument now. And both of these guys were violent individuals. Dola lived in Outer Ring Estate. And back then when people used to carry stones, wanakuwa weda. And matatu number 23, back then, I can't remember how much we used to pay as bus fare. But these are the kind of guy, because the guy was humongous, had, was very well built. And so they would get into these matatus at 23. And because the guy is so built, he would give the makanga whatever amounts you can now. Kama ni 10 bob anampatia. And then makanga anaangalia, anaona hapa hakuna kitu naweza fanya. And he knows, nikizusha hapa hivi, I'll still go to Tao, and when I come back, because this guy lives in Outer Ring Estate, and they were together with other guys in Outer Ring Estate, Akina Patel. Patel knows who I'm talking about. So they were real huge, but because of life and stuff, this guy had stopped carrying weights, but he still had the physique of a wader. So he used to walk like a wader, and so he was violent. So he tells this guy, usinilete, unasema nini historia ya the grace? So us guys are there wondering, what in the world? So it went on. Now it almost became physical. Wakaambiana, mi usinilete, unafikiri we mrefu hivi, unafikiri, because Karani, okay, the name came out. Anthony is a short guy. Dola was a tall guy. And so Anthony is also one of those guys who, whatever goes, because he's been doing a lot of fighting. And so on this time, they started arguing about the prayer, the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ. Mpaka wanaambiana, usinilete, unafikiri wewe urefu yako inanistua, tutoke hapa nje, utaniona. And so that's how the prayer meeting ended. I can imagine what heaven was thinking. Weren't these guys praying? Yes. How did they end up getting to the place whereby they're now going, about to exchange fists? So they went outside, and we had to separate them, wondering, how did it end up in that state? So we had crazy stories happening during those days. There was a guy called Cairo. And these are real names, real individuals. Now, Cairo is an interesting chap. Cairo, when he wanted to go to India, that's the time HIV/AIDS was big. And before you fly out of the country, one of the things, I'm going to blot out this name so that they don't sue me. So when it was, he wanted to go for further studies to India, and so he used to come for the prayer meetings, and during that time, there was a terminology he constantly used. He used to kill the devil so many times because he would be praying and praying and praying and going, devil, I kill you. And so he would kill the devil so many times, and I kept on wondering, this guy has been killing the devil so many times, but I'm still seeing the works of the devil around. Anyway, so one time, so back then, if you wanted to go to out of the country to a different country, further studies or whatever, you had to take an HIV test. So he goes and takes a HIV test. Now, unknown to him, there's a guy also who is going to a different place. And you know, as Kikuyus, like me, my name is Frederick Njiri Mwangi. You will go to a place and get somebody with the same name. And it's mostly Frederick, and you'll get an N, maybe Njiri or Njuguna, but it's N. So it's Frederick N Mwangi. And then this one is Frederick Njuguna Mwangi. So he goes and the tests come out. And when the guys come out to give out the result, they say, where is so and so? So he stands up. He stands up going to get his results. And Wololoya, he opens the result. He's told he's positive. And he holds his chest and says, oh, devil, what have you done? Oh, my goodness. So he's in shock. He's wondering, how did I get HIV and AIDS? How? I have kept myself all this. Yani Satan literally managed to sneak in HIV virus into me like this. So after a while, as he's still struggling to, to come to terms with the fact that, number one, he's HIV positive. And back then, the moment you declared HIV, I mean, it's death, because there were no ARVs. I mean, it's just death. And you would literally, that thing would eat you, become just, a bundle of bones. I mean, it was bad news. So he would see himself becoming a bundle of bones. Here he was. His trip to India, it's just gone. It's just blown like that. So he was contemplating first, and then, how do I go and tell my parents I have HIV and AIDS? How? So now all those things are going through his mind. And then the guy who was doing all this thing again comes out and mentions the same name. So and so. And he's wondering, Allah, see, they've already given me the results. So he stands up and he's wondering, okay, is there something else? And he sees there's another certificate. So he takes the two certificates and discovers now the one that has come second is the one that is his. Because, I think they were using the N in, it's like Fred N Mwangi, Fred N Mwangi, but one is Njiri, the other one is Njuguna. So he had taken the one that belonged to somebody else. Then he goes, he's told, oh, this is the one. He checks and sees the one that is negative is the one that is his. So ultimately he ended up going to India. He's still alive today, and if you ever meet him, or I know somehow he'll get to see this, he will tell you that story. And those are some of the things that happened when we were growing up, some crazy stuff. And these are things that at times you just put, or you tell them, and they put a smile on somebody's face. Like, I know you've laughed. Anyway, situonane tena tuongee maneno yangu.